que... Ah, OK. Is it okay now?
Oui, Monsieur le Président, tout est OK. Les interprètes aussi sont prêts. Merci.
OK, OK. Bon, merci beaucoup. Bon, donc on va commencer notre réunion. Et bon, on va commencer pour aller plus vite sur les questions vraiment de prorogation du mandat des membres du Conseil et des alternates aussi. Après, on va aussi aborder la question des membres de Task Force pour l'innovation. Au point 4, on va voir les dates et lieux de notre prochaine réunion. Et bon, après, on va voir la mise en œuvre du code de bonne conduite que nous avons. Après ce point, on va avoir une petite pause, et on va commencer la discussion de fond sur le point 8A que nous avons commencé vraiment hier, à savoir les possibles liens entre le fonds d'adaptation et le fonds vert pour le climat. Vous le savez, bon, c'est une réunion qu'on a déjà commencé, c'est entre les membres du conseil d'administration, une réunion vraiment fermée. Après, on poursuivra avec le point 7, qui est l'application de notre document de politique environnementale et sociale. Il va y avoir une partie ouverte et une partie qui va être vraiment fermée. Ensuite, on aura le point 8B, les questions de ressources financières sur lesquelles on est resté hier. Bon, on va pouvoir achever, voir s'il y a des options qui sont vraiment envisageables et sur lesquelles on pourra vraiment faire de bon. Après, on va étudier les questions de privilèges et immunités qu'on avait commencé la première journée et dont le débat avait nécessité une demande de Madame Claudia pour qu'elle ait plus de temps de lire. C'était le même cas aussi pour Madame Patience. Donc, voilà. Et bon, sur le fond, on va encore revenir sur la question de mobilisation des ressources financières, qui est une session vraiment fermée. Sur ce point, on va voir, Madame Claudia avait proposé quelque chose que nous allons pouvoir apprécier ensemble dans l'espoir que nous allons boucler vraiment ce point. Les thématiques qui vont suivre, c'est d'abord les questions ouvertes. Je dis les questions diverses, excusez-moi. Et après, bon, on va apprécier le draft du rapport de notre session et à la fin, on va clôturer. Voilà en gros l'agenda de ce soir. Si tout se passe bien, à 17 h, on devrait pouvoir finir ces différents points et je souhaite vivement que nos débats soient fructueux et riches de telle façon que nous puissions vraiment épuiser notre agenda. Voilà, chers amis, là où nous en sommes. Je voudrais savoir si cet agenda-là vous agrée. Et donc, si c'est bon, on pourra poursuivre et continuer le débat. Apparemment, let me see. OK. Bon, on est en train de régler quelques problèmes d'interprétation. On va attendre voir. Okay.
It works now. It used to be a bit faint, fading in and fading out, but it seems to be work now. Thank you.
OK. D'accord. OK. Merci beaucoup, Miko. Merci. Donc, Sam, tout est à jour. Là.
Yes, again.
Yes.
OK. OK. Merci beaucoup. Donc, sans plus tarder, on va aborder la question de prorogation des mandats des membres du Conseil et de leurs suppléants. Et le document qui va nous servir vraiment d'examen pour ce point-là, c'est essentiellement notre règlement intérieur tel que c'est prévu. Et bon, nous allons voir ce qui est possible, qu'est-ce que le règlement intérieur nous dit. En la circonstance, je crois que chacun sait, en principe, les membres devraient être renouvelés à partir de l'année prochaine. Bon, mais comme nous n'avons pas eu une conférence des partis, le renouvellement n'a pas été fait au niveau de nos circonscriptions respectives et le secrétariat a dû prendre vraiment les décisions qui conviennent. Donc, voilà en gros ce que je vais dire comme introduction. Et après, bon, on va étudier également l'élection des autres organes. Le PPSC, on avait abordé ces questions, bon, on verra. Je voudrais savoir si Miko a vraiment une introduction, une explication à faire aux membres du conseil pour que nous puissions procéder.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to members, alternates, and observers. I will provide a brief background of this, and luckily we have the legal team of the UNFCCC Secretariat joining us here today, and they have very kindly agreed to be available to provide further information on the latest developments that have taken place since last week. The background of the matter is, as I had already mentioned in an email that I sent to the board a week or two ago, that the postponement of the COP to next year has caused a consequence that is related to the membership of the Adaptation Fund Board. The rules of procedure state that the members are elected and alternates are elected at the session of the CMP and that they are elected for a period of 2 years. And from this follows the following situation, that there are 8 members and 7 alternate members on the board who were elected almost 2 years ago at the CMP 14 in Katowice, Poland, and whose term started at the first meeting of 2019. And as the rules of procedure states that the term is 2 years, the term of these members and alternates is scheduled to end in March of 2021. And that is also where we would normally have our first meeting of the calendar year. And there the new members would normally start. The fact that there is not going to be a session of the CMP before March 2021 causes the problem that without specific measures, those seats would be left vacant in March 2021, which would effectively reduce the number of members and alternates by half. Some UNFCCC constituted bodies have rollover clauses in their rules which allow members and alternate members to continue serving in their respective positions until a replacement has been elected. The Adaptation Fund Board does not have such a clause in its rules of procedure. And there are other UNFCCC constituted bodies that are in the same situation with the Adaptation Fund Board. So for this reason, the UNFCCC COP Bureau has considered this matter over the past months, and at its meeting on 25th of August, confirmed the application of criteria to enable work mandated for 2020 and 2021 to be delivered at COP26 in November next year, with a view to bringing the UNFCCC process back on track by the end of 2021. These criteria are contained in the letter that was sent to the board by the UNFCCC Secretariat. Particularly, the following criterion requires the board's attention, and that is the third criterion stating extending the current membership of the Convention, Kyoto Protocol, and Paris Agreement bodies as needed until successors can be appointed or elected. Now, some members of the board had requested that the Secretariat would prepare a recommendation on a specific recommendation on how to proceed on this matter, and we have consulted with the UNFCCC Secretariat and have been informed that the consultation has been ongoing between the UNFCCC Secretariat and the relevant bodies in charge of these matters under the Convention, and the outcome of those consultations was not available as of last week, but we're very lucky to have, as I mentioned, the legal team of the UNFCCC Secretariat with us to hopefully provide an update on these matters. And some of the key matters that we had identified is, first of all, whether the board would need to make a decision or only take a note of the decision by the Bureau or of another body. And the second question is whether if there's an extension of term, whether that should only apply to those members and alternates whose term would otherwise be ending at the first board meeting of 2021, or also to the other members and alternates. And we think that these are quite important questions to be clarified, and hopefully the UNFCCC Secretariat, the legal team, can provide more clarification on that. I'll end my introduction here. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Miko, pour cette introduction très importante qui nous situe sur la question à aborder. Nous avons alors la possibilité d'étudier cette question. Je vais vous inviter en tant que membre à voir les commentaires que nous pouvons avoir. Bon, il y a également, je crois, le secrétariat de la Convention qui est représenté. Je crois qu'on va faire des débats. Après, le secrétariat peut-être pourra nous éclairer s'il y a des questions d'éclaircissement que nous allons avoir. Et après, sur la base des choix qui sont là, le Conseil va pouvoir décider de la suite à donner à cette question. Est-ce que ça peut aller, ou c'est le secrétariat qui nous éclaire d'abord, ou on laisse les membres du Conseil faire d'abord leurs commentaires et le secrétariat pourra répondre? Miko, of the Secretariat?
Sorry, no, I don't have anything to add, but I noticed that the UNFCCC Secretariat is online, so unless members have questions or comments, maybe one way forward would be to ask the Secretariat to clarify. Thank you.
OK, thank you. Chers amis, je crois qu'on peut commencer le débat sur la base de ce que Miko a présenté. Et si nous avons des questions, vraiment, le secrétariat de la Convention va pouvoir nous éclairer et nous donner vraiment les éléments d'appréciation qui nous permettraient vraiment d'avancer. Donc, je préfère ouvrir les débats sur ce point-là et ensemble, nous allons voir. Mais ayez en tête, s'il y a des questions à poser au secrétariat aussi, vous pouvez les poser directement. Elle est là. Merci beaucoup. Le débat est ouvert. Bon, c'est Philippe? Non? OK. Qui veut prendre la parole? Non. Apparemment, il n'y a pas d'ordre de prise de demande de prise de parole. Je vais inviter le secrétariat de la Convention de pouvoir nous situer davantage sur le sujet. Certainement que ça va permettre aux membres du Conseil de pouvoir faire des commentaires, de poser des questions, de pouvoir avancer sur le sujet. Madame, vous avez la parole pour nous éclairer davantage sur le sujet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to board members. My name is Natalie Williams, and I'm the legal officer with the UNFCCC Secretariat. And among my portfolios is to the electoral process. Good. So Miko gave a very good introduction of the problem. And the problem arose because of the challenges that we're having now with the pandemic and the postponement of COP26 to next year. With the postponement of COP26, the postponement of the election also was a consequential effect of that. So we faced a problem in that a number of members of various UNFCCC bodies, including the Adaptation Fund Board, their terms of office ended, well, their position was open for election this year because the term of office would end immediately at the first meeting of the year in 2021. So how to deal with that challenge of managing to ensure that the positions of many positions, in particular on the Adaptation Fund Board, would not become immediately vacant come beginning of the first meeting next year, half the positions actually. And as Miko has said, there are some bodies that there is an automated remain in office option. But there are some bodies, some UNFCCC bodies that do not have this automatic remain in office option, and Adaptation Fund Board is unfortunately in this situation, which means that if there is no election, the seats, half the membership would become vacant immediately come beginning of next year, the first meeting of the year. We brought the matter to the attention of the Bureau because the Bureau was looking at all means of managing the challenges that we face as a consequence of the postponement. And this was one of the issues that we brought forward, that we have to put in place mitigation measures to overcome this problem, which meant that the board, the Adaptation Fund Board in particular, would not be able to fulfill its mandate. The board considered this at its meetings this year, and at the meeting in August, it took a decision to confirm that the members and alternates would remain in office until successors are elected or appointed. In some bodies, they're appointment, but in the Adaptation Fund Board case is election. What the Secretariat did after that Bureau confirmation is the Executive Secretary sent a message to parties to inform of the Bureau outcome. And I hope all board members received that message that was sent from the Executive Secretary. And at the end of September, as Miko said, a letter was sent to all members of all constituted bodies, including the Adaptation Fund Board, to inform of the Bureau confirmation that the members would remain are extended until the election takes place. That we since then we have had a meeting of the regional, the chair of the electoral process, the vice president of the COP Bureau, Vice President Bougie, had a meeting with the chairs of regional groups and constituencies who are responsible for nominations. That meeting was held last Friday, and this was one of the topics that was addressed. The Bureau, in the decision, requested the Secretariat to operationalize that Bureau confirmation. And we presented, at the request of the Vice President, we presented an approach of how we would operationalize that Bureau confirmation that the members remain in office. The regional groups, they asked a few questions and the chair gave them time until the beginning of next week to come back on the proposed approach that we presented. To address some of the concerns, there were 3 categories of membership issues that needed to be addressed in operationalizing that bureau confirmation. One is the members whose term who would have been up for election this year. So those are, and that's 153 members altogether. 16 of those are for the Adaptation Fund Board. There is another category of membership who would have expired next year. The other half of the Adaptation Fund Board, whose positions would have been up for election at COP27 if everything had remained normal. And there's another category of membership who are unaffected by the Bureau confirmation because their positions would have been opened up anyway next year and they are unaffected by that. So those are the easy ones. The easy ones in that we proceed with the election as planned next year anyway. For the first category of members' positions who are opened up this year, the proposal is that, well, based on the Bureau decision, that those members would remain in office until the election is held at COP26. And that is without exception. The Bureau confirmation is without exception, which means all 16 positions on the Adaptation Fund Board that would have been open for election this year at COP26, had COP26 been held this year in 1 month's time, those members are continuing in office until COP26 next year. Okay, now we come to the second category, those members whose position would have been opened up next year in 2021 for election at COP27, had the situation been normal. This was a very, we had to overcome the problem that we would then have next year all 32 positions on Adaptation Fund Board open for election. And that will create a problem. The problem it created is that the CMP decision said that half the members are to be elected each year, each time. And that in order to maintain this staggering, where 16 is elected each year, another 16 elected the next year, the proposal is that those positions who would have been opened up next year, not this year, in 2021, that they would remain in office, roll over until the election in 2022. So it's as if 2020 never happened. So election of the 16 members next year, and those positions that would have been opened up in 2021, those members would remain in office and the election for those positions will be held in 2022. That way we maintain the staggered approach that's in the CMP decision. The members the chair of regional groups they needed more time to think about this. They had some questions and we're going to respond to those questions in writing. We will send written responses back to the chair of the regional groups. But in essence, this is where we are now. And once we get the feedback from the chair of the consultation and Vice President Boji, we will issue a notification to all parties to inform of the operationalization of that bureau confirmation and the consequential effect, what will happen. So nominations for the 16 board members whose position was open this year would come in 2021 for the election at postponed COP26, and nominations for those members who would have been elected at COP27 CMP 17 will still be like a CNP 17, but 1 year later. I think I have addressed the 2 points that Miko raised. And please, Mr. Chair, are there any other questions? Thank you.
Ibila, I think you're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. Merci beaucoup de ce rappel. Merci beaucoup, madame, pour vos éclairages fort utiles. Ils nous ont permis de comprendre davantage la tâche à accomplir. Donc, en principe, si on s'en tient à la confirmation du bureau, c'est que ceux dont les mandats finissent cette année auront leur mandat reconduit pour 1 année sans déception. Et la deuxième catégorie aussi, ceux dont les mandats finiraient l'année prochaine également pourront avoir leur mandat prorogé également d'1 année. Voilà la substance de la confirmation du bureau de la COP. Sur cette base-là, on va lancer les débats parce qu'en tant que membre du conseil d'administration, nous avons deux approches. On prend note de cette décision de confirmation du bureau de la COP ou alors on prend une décision à ce sujet. C'est là qu'interviendra l'utilité de votre intervention. Mais avant ça, peut-être, si après la présentation de madame, la conseillère juridique du secrétariat, vous avez des questions à lui poser, vous pouvez poser les questions. Bon, mais il me semble que les choses sont tellement claires, c'est de reconduire le mandat qui doit finir cette année et également le mandat qui doit finir l'année prochaine. Bon, on prend note de cette confirmation du bureau ou alors, en tant que membre du conseil d'administration, on prend une décision à ce sujet. Voilà vraiment la substance. Hein. Bon, voilà, je crois que c'est l'essentiel. Vous avez la parole. Apparemment, je ne vois pas de bonne prise de parole. Ah, voilà. Aram first, and Macias, et après Mohamed. Aram, vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Chair. Good day, everyone. And I appreciate very much the clarifications by the Secretariat of the Adaptation Fund and the Secretariat of the UNFCCC. Netly, thank you very much. It clarified a lot. When Secretariat sent us that notification about the problem, I actually, via email, suggested to prepare a draft decision. Maybe it was too early for that. I think what I would suggest, I think we have to proceed with the option suggested. But my question is rather, I'm not clear so far, whether we need, probably I missed something, sorry, whether we can take a decision today or we can take this decision on extension of membership of the members and alternate intersessionally, or whether we need additional clarification from the Bureau. But I'm actually for, I'm ready to support the decision of the extension of the membership of the members and alternates, not to hinder the work of the Adaptation Fund. The point is, you know, like, on the current situation, just recalling that this issue has been discussed during the last, if I am not mistaken, or pre-last face-to-face Adaptation Fund board meeting. But the reason of this suggestion was very different. Nowadays we have very different situation, and we see how problematic for all of us to have those virtual meetings. Well, but still we are ready to proceed with it, with virtual meeting, but we have to have quorum. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Aram, pour cette intervention. Voilà. Je crois on va avoir la décision. C'est déjà bien de savoir que votre préférence serait que, bon, on ait un peu de décision. Et voilà ce que je retiendrai. Ça doit être la meilleure option selon vous. Voilà. Mathias, vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the presentation from the Secretariat and the UNFCCC. However, I would like to ask, I understand this is a very legal matter in a sense. And my question is still whether, I think we need to take a decision as a board on this, but my question is the same as Aram's. Do we need to take a decision today, or can it be, should it be taken at a later point? Because what I've heard from the UNFCCC was, if I understood correctly, those whose terms would end at the end of this year, it had already been decided that they could be rolled over for another year. But if I understood correctly, those people who would end only next year, there was some ambiguity whether the UNFCCC had actually come to a conclusion whether they should be rolled over as well or not. So I guess it would be best to take one decision and not several, but I just would like a clarification on this from maybe the Secretariat side. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Mathias, pour cette intervention. Hein, c'est bien. On verra, le secrétariat aura répondre et ça pourra nous permettre d'avancer. Mohamed, vous avez la parole.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et bonjour, chers collègues. Merci Nathalie pour ces clarifications, merci Nico également pour les données et les éclaircissements que vous avez donnés. Je pense que personnellement que les choses sont tellement claires au niveau de décision, donc qui pourraient garantir un fonctionnement normal du conseil d'administration du fonds d'adaptation concernant l'extension des mandats, aussi bien des membres dont le mandat finiront en mars 2021 que les autres membres donc dont le mandat finira avec les élections à la COP 27. Juste par rapport à je pense que c'est une question purement juridique. Est-ce que Nathalie peut nous apporter plus d'éclaircissement? Elle a parlé de concertation qui a eu lieu entre le bureau et les présidents des groupes. Est-ce qu'il va y avoir une autre note supplémentaire en fonction de ces concertations avec les groupes? Et est-ce que dans les règles et les procédures applicables, sachant qu'on a le même problème pour un certain nombre de structures sous la Convention, est-ce que dans les règles, il sera plus faisable que chaque structure prenne une décision à part, ou l'idéal, c'est d'attendre un peu une décision, une notification du bureau, suite de laquelle chaque structure prendra une décision en conséquence de la notification du bureau. Voilà, merci.
Merci beaucoup, Mohamed. Oui, apparemment, bon, les choses sont vraiment simples à première vue. Oui, je comprends. Hein. Marc-Antoine, vous avez la parole.
Oui, merci, Imila. Bonjour à tous. Juste un peu dans le même sens que vient d'exprimer notre camarade et collègue. Je voudrais être sûr que j'ai bien compris ce qu'a dit Nathalie Williams, surtout en fonction de la réaction qu'a eu Mathias. Moi, j'ai compris que, en fait, le bureau nous fait 2 propositions. La première, donc, c'est que ceux qui devaient, il faut repousser d'1 an, enfin, on repousse à 2021 les membres qui auraient dû ne pas l'être. Et puis, deuxième proposition, c'est que ceux qui devaient être élus théoriquement à la CMP 17, on repousse d'1 an. Ma question est la suivante. D'abord, est-ce que j'ai bien compris? Je le crois. Mais j'ai compris que Nathalie nous a dit qu'on attendait la décision du directeur ou du président du bureau, justement, de ces affaires juridiques. Alors, est-ce que nous ne pouvons, si c'est le cas, est-ce qu'on peut prendre les 2 décisions ou est-ce qu'on ne doit en prendre qu'une seule? À mon avis, moi, je suis confortable avec les 2 propositions, les 2 décisions. Mais peut-être faut-il attendre la notification, enfin l'accord final du chef du bureau de votre bureau. Merci, si vous pouviez préciser ce point.
Ok, merci beaucoup Marc-Antoine. C'est vraiment une démarche vraiment très louable et sage. Les explications de Madame William nous permettront d'être mieux situés. Et donc, sans plus tarder, je vais donner la parole à Madame William Nathalie pour apporter les éclairages. Hein. Après, si les préoccupations surgissent, on peut toujours les poser. Merci.
Okay, Mr. Chair, should I go ahead and respond? Okay, there were a number of questions
Madame, vous
raised.
avez la parole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There were a number of questions raised about the decision making by the board on this matter. And what is the status of the consultations on the approach, the proposed approach by the Secretariat to operationalize that bureau confirmation? Well, first, and whether a notification will be sent to the board members on this decision, I think, and whether the same rule will be applied to all bodies, or whether there'll be a different rule for each body, for example, a different rule applied for the Adaptation Fund Board. All right, let me start with this question of decision from on the board on this matter. The Bureau confirmation in August, the Bureau emphatically confirmed and very clearly that the members and alternates of Convention, Kyoto Protocol, Paris Agreement bodies the current members would remain in office as necessary until their successors are appointed or elected. The Bureau, there was no invitation to these bodies to do anything with that Bureau confirmation. It was a blanket confirmation applied to all bodies, and there was no invitation to these bodies to react, for a reaction, for a decision, or anything. So I'm not sure whether by the board, when you take a decision on this, it begs the question, could the board override the Bureau's confirmation? And so I'm not sure that the board could do anything other than take notes. I'm not sure. But the board is supreme, is in charge of its own rules of procedure. But the Bureau did a blanket confirmation across the board of all bodies, punct. The current members and alternates will remain in office until COP26. Well, didn't say that, but in effect, COP26. The Bureau has requested the Secretariat to operationalize that confirmation. And what we did, we thought we would consult with the chairs on the approach of operationalizing it. That means it is left to our discretion how to go about putting in place the parameters to ensure that the Bureau's decision was fully implemented. And we took the approach to first present the approach to the chair of the consultation, Vice President Bojic. And since we were having the consultations with regional group chairs who are responsible for nomination, we opened it up just for transparency, for information flow, and just in case we missed anything. They could come back and say, you missed this. So we did a very transparent, open consultation process with the chairs, but the responsibility of operationalizing the Bureau confirmation lies with the Secretariat. And we hope the chairs got a deadline until next week, Tuesday, the 3rd, to come back with any views, any feedback. And after that, the Secretariat will issue a notification, which will go to all parties on its approach to operationalizing that Bureau confirmation. So yes, so you will receive a notification from the Secretariat, and it will override notification that we sent in March. We always send every year a notification action. So it will supplement that earlier notification that we sent in March on the elections. So this is one rule that's applied across the board to all bodies. No exception, no differentiation. All bodies are treated equally. And all members, all bodies, including the Adaptation Fund Board, are being, the current members whose term would have expired this year or next year will be shifted 1 year, will be rolled over by 1 year. Yeah, I think I've captured all the questions. If I've missed anything, Mr. Chair, please let me know. Thank you very much.
OK, merci beaucoup, Madame Nathalie. Donc, les choses semblent être claires à mon niveau. Bon, mais j'ai vu Aram veut poser une question. Moi-même, personnellement, je vais intervenir pour donner mon point de vue. Bon, mais je laisse Aram intervenir. Aram, vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Chair, and sorry for taking the floor again. I would like to make it as clear as possible. From what Natalie says, we just either keep low profile and wait for the next notification, or just make a decision to take note. I mean, my understanding that since it's a blanket notification, so we don't take specific action. We either take note of what we have heard, whether it's written or verbal, whatever, and wait for the next notification, which will most likely, after additional consultations, as I understand, will extend for 1 year the membership of all board members and alternates, since another rule says that the half of the members and alternates have to be nominated or renominated for each term. So my understanding, we just wait for next notification. The maximum we can make is take a decision to take note. That's it. Am I right?
Madame Nathalie va répondre. Bon, mais moi, je veux intervenir. Je crois que je vais intervenir. Mais Madame va intervenir. Non, moi, sincèrement, je tiens à remercier Madame Nathalie, qui a été claire que possible, à mon sens. C'est une décision générale qui est valable pour tous les organes, et donc le conseil d'administration du fonds d'adaptation ne fera pas exception. Et sur cette base-là, telle que je l'ai entendu, la confirmation n'est qu'une modalité de mise en œuvre. Ça ne viendra pas contredire ce que le bureau a dit, et par conséquent pour moi, tel que ça a été demandé, on va prendre note de cette confirmation-là, et bon, et on évolue. Voilà, moi, c'est ce que j'ai compris de l'explication de Madame Nathalie. Le bureau a pris une décision. Comment opérationnaliser cela? Le secrétariat en consultation avec les présidents des groupes régionaux. Bon, c'est tout. Ce n'est pas pour déroger à la confirmation du bureau de la COP. Et donc, merci beaucoup, Madame, encore une fois. À mon sens, tel que j'ai compris, c'est que nous, on va prendre acte de cette conformation du bureau de la COP. Et bon, et on évolue. Voilà. Merci beaucoup. Mais Madame est plus indiquée pour nous dire ce qu'il a fait au regard de la question qu'a posée notre ami Aram. Merci. Madame, vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You fully covered it. I would agree. I agree that the board should decide to take note of this because of this bureau confirmation. And the next step will be a notification that will go to all parties from the executive secretary on how she will implement that bureau confirmation. Thank you.
Vraiment, merci beaucoup, Madame. Je préfère des positions vraiment claires comme ça. Je n'aime pas les ambiguïtés. Vous avez été très clair, je vous en remercie. Je crois que nous pouvons vider vraiment cette question-là. Et donc, sur la base de ce qui a été dit, j'invite le conseil d'administration du fonds à prendre note de cette confirmation du bureau. Et bon, lorsque on aura les modalités, bon, on sera informé. Et donc, voilà, merci beaucoup. Je crois que on peut considérer que ce point-là est vraiment résolu. Est-ce que c'est le cas? Donc, il n'y a pas d'objection. Donc, le conseil d'administration du fonds d'adaptation prend note de la confirmation du bureau de la COP concernant la prorogation des mandats des membres du conseil d'administration qui devaient prendre fin en 2020 et pour ceux qui vont prendre fin en 2021. Voilà le résumé que je fais. Le secrétariat du fonds d'adaptation va matérialiser ces prises de notes et on évolue. Merci beaucoup. Sur ce, on va continuer avec Madame, je vous remercie sincèrement pour ce travail vraiment technique, très clair, qui nous a permis d'avancer vraiment beaucoup. Infiniment merci. Vous restez avec nous, on aura toujours besoin de vous, il y a toujours les questions qui sont là. Et merci de pouvoir nous aider utilement et faire des bons en termes de gain de temps. Merci beaucoup. On va aborder le second point qui est réservé à l'élection des présidents.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. Albara has a question. Albara just raised his hand.
Oh, Albara, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Yes, you have the floor, Abara.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I actually raised my hand a while ago. It doesn't matter, it's fine. So thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay, Chair. Thank you for the excellent presentation. Thank you, Natalie, for your thorough explanation. I think the situation is pretty clear for us. I happen to sit at multiple constituted bodies, and it was really a smooth decision that really the memberships have been extended. So I think we have done the same now. But the one thing that's left for us to do is to really have the policies in place to make sure that if any, hopefully we will not be faced with a similar situation in the future, but we can never predict. So I think the only thing that remains is for us at the Adaptation Fund, maybe at future meetings, to make sure that we do have policies in place to ensure a smooth transition if any situation like this may occur in the future. With that, I'm ready to accept and proceed with that decision. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, cher Albara, pour ces commentaires et cette contribution. C'est vrai, du fait même qu'on ait cette confirmation du bureau, c'est un précédent et ça nous permet vraiment d'exploiter à bon escient les situations semblables qui pourraient se présenter. Merci beaucoup d'avoir soutenu vraiment cette décision-là, qu'on prenne note de la confirmation du bureau du COP. Merci beaucoup. Donc, j'espère que... OK, yes. Je crois que c'est bon. Il n'y a pas de bonne prise de parole. On pourra donc évoluer sur notre agenda. Merci infiniment au monde du bureau. Le point 13 est consacré à l'élection des membres. On avait fait circuler avec l'appui du secrétariat du fonds les positions que nous devons renouveler et on avait donné les concertations entre différents groupes des pays de l'ANES 1 et le groupe des pays non ANES 1. J'espère que les consultations ont pu être menées et qu'on va pouvoir faire les débats. Ensuite, on avait, dès notre premier jour, abordé la question de la mise en place de cette task force-là sur l'innovation. Également, les candidatures ont été enregistrées et je crois que depuis hier, Miko nous a informé des membres qui se sont portés volontaires, qui de fait vont constituer vraiment cette task force-là. Cela dit, cette introduction ayant été faite, je vais laisser mon vice-président, M. Massias, de conduire la suite de cette thématique-là. Massias, vous avez la parole pour conduire ce processus-là. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next agenda point is election of officers for the next period of office. And we refer here to the rules of procedure of the Adaptation Fund Board, Section 4, General Guidelines for Board Committees, paragraphs 4 to 6, and terms of reference for the accreditation panel. And the background is that we will elect officers for the period of office starting at the 36th meeting. Namely, we will need to elect a board chair from Annex 1 party, a board vice chair from non-Annex 1 party, an EFC chair from non-Annex 1 party, and an EFC vice chair from Annex 1 party, and then a PPRC chair from Annex 1 party, and the PPRC vice chair from non-Annex 1 party, accreditation panel member from a non-Annex 1 party to serve as chair, and accreditation panel vice chair from Annex 1 party. And I would like to invite, open the floor for nominations. So I open the floor. May I, for example, suggest, if agreeable, Marc-Antoine, would you like to, on behalf of the Annex 1 parties, make nominations that we have circulated? If no one else wants to make nominations.
Excuse me, sorry, Matthias. I'm not sure to have the correct name. I agree with I see some email, but I'm not sure to get the right name. Sorry. I cannot catch on my screen what I already said I was agree. So I should have right before. Maybe could you find somebody who is better than me?
Thank you, Marc-Antoine. I'm sure there's someone else who will be able to read from the screen what we have circulated. Is there someone who would like to? Claudia is raising her hand. Please, Claudia.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure I'm better than Marc-Antoine, but I certainly have the right email in front of me. So for the open positions on Annex 1 side, we are proposing Eleonora for the accreditation panel vice chair. Chair of the board would be proposed the current vice chair, Matthias. We are proposing as EFC vice chair, Sylviane from Belgium, and as PPRC chair, Susanna from Spain. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. And may I ask the non-Annex 1 parties to make nominations for the other officers of the board? Please, is there someone who would like to take the floor? I don't see anyone raising their hand. Could somebody help me? Or I don't see anyone writing in the chat.
Ahmed Wahid is raising his hand.
Ahmed Wahid. Okay. Then I will leave the floor to Ahmed Wahid. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. I just want to nominate a person for the vice chair from the non-Annex party. That's Albara from Saudi Arabia. That's only the nomination I would like to put in forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Do we have nominations from the non-Annex 1 parties for the remaining officers of the board? I think I'm only able to see when you write in the chat. If someone is raising their hand, I don't have everyone in the picture. Okay, I see now that Tashi would you like to take the floor, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, members. May I propose Ms. Patience for the PPRC? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tashi. If I heard correctly, you proposed Patience for the PPRC.
Yes, you're right, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I would then invite Patience to make a suggestion. You have the floor, Patience.
Thank you, Chair. I was, it was just by mistake. I was going to suggest something, but I think I'll hold on a bit. Thank you.
It is perfectly fine to change opinion. You can hold on for a bit. Let's see if we have someone else who would like to take the floor. I don't see anyone at the moment. We still have EFC chair from non-Annex 1 party and also the accreditation panel from non-Annex 1 party to serve as a chair. Okay, I see now Patience. Sorry, I now see Patience raising her hand again, so I will give you the floor now, Patience.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wanted to, because I kind of know that there's a rotation amongst the non-Annex 1. So I was just wondering whether for the adaptation, for the panel and the EFC, which constituency is will have to be in there. So if Miko can please enlighten us on that, then that will make it easier for us to do the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Patience. Patience was asking for the Secretariat to enlighten on which groups of countries that would be in line for filling certain posts, certain officers in the board. Would you like to come in, Mikko?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The election process is one where the board does not have any, the rotation among constituencies is a practice where there are no written rules for the board. We can only look what has happened in the past and what may or may not be applicable for future decisions. And the Secretariat also does not have a role in guiding that process in any way. So I am not sure if I can provide response on how the process should go. Just to note that in the past there has been typically a rotation of between every 2 or 3 years, sometimes even more frequently than that, between representatives of different constituencies within the non-Annex 1 parties constituency. Sorry, between regional groups within the non-Annex 1 countries constituency. But really there is no clear rule on how it should go based on any rule. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikko. I hope that was some kind of clarification. I see now that Ibila has asked for the floor. Ibila? please, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur le vice-président. Non, je voudrais revenir pour faire une proposition. En fait, je crois que le poste de vice-président du panel d'accréditation était occupé par Evans, qui est du groupe des pays non annexes 1. Se basant sur la pratique, je propose qu'il devienne président de ce groupe de panel. Si j'ai bien lu. Hein. Voilà, Ivan était vice-président de ce panel d'accréditation. Nous basant sur cette pratique-là, je propose qu'il devienne vraiment le président de ce groupe d'accréditation. Je crois mes informations sont bonnes concernant son poste qu'il occupait de vice-président du comité d'accréditation, du panel d'accréditation. Merci, voilà ma proposition.
Thank you, Ibila. I understand that you are proposing Evans to the post of to serve as chair of the accreditation panel. We still are waiting for a nomination then for the EFC chair from non-Annex 1 party. Do we have anyone who would like to make a nomination? I see that Ibila is now raised his hand, and also Albara. Who should I let first, Ibila?
Bon, je préfère laisser Albara faire la proposition, madame.
Okay. Yeah. I was asking you as you had already been naming a person. So I will leave the floor to Albara, please.
Thank you very much, Matthias. And I would have wished that Ibila would propose a name. But I understand fully the points that were just raised by Miko, and thank you for that. I understand that this is not really a written rule, but I think it's also important for us to continue the regional rotations, and it's really, of course, it would be the fair way for different regions, and it would also be for the benefit of the fund and for all parties all parties that are able to be on that rotation fund. So I think continuing that rotation is important. And in my humble opinion, I'm just wondering about the regional, the region that is supposed to be filling in that position for the EFC, because for me it's really important, to continue with the regional rotation for the reasons that I have mentioned. So it would be just useful for us to understand, and given the unprecedented circumstances of virtual meetings, this could have been done over a 5-minute chat or a coffee break, but unfortunately we do not have that leisure now. So it would be really great to know whose regional, whose turn is it, or what region is supposed to be filling up the position of an EFC chair at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Albara. I don't know, Miko, could you try to enlighten us upon which region would be in turn? If we're looking at history, I know that there is no written rules. We cannot say that one should take the post, but I know that you have sent out an email. Could you repeat what was in that, please?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The rotation in the committees and the accreditation panel has not been very regular, and therefore it's a little bit difficult to say who would be which region would be in turn to fill the position next year. But if I may read backwards, the chair or vice chair position of the Ethics and Finance Committee has been held by Africa region for this year. Last year, it was held by the Asia region. Before that, it was held by the Africa region for 3 years. Before that, it was held by the Latin America and Caribbean region for 2 years. And before that, by the Eastern Europe region for 2 years. So this is, and before that, by Asia, Africa, and Latin America and the Caribbean. So it is, there's no regular rotation. I might note that based on the current nominations that have been received, which would include a vice chair of the board from the Asia Pacific region, a vice chair of the PPRC from the Africa region, and a chair of the accreditation panel from the Africa region, although representing least developed countries. The regions, there are regions that are not represented in these chairing positions based on the current nominations, and another consideration might be to look at the balance between regions in these chairing positions, and therefore, for example, a representative of the Latin American Caribbean region or a representative of Eastern Europe region might be possible. But this is purely hypothetical, and this is not, as I said, not based on any rule as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikko, for that, for clarification. I heard you saying Latin America, Eastern Europe. Would also SIDS be added to that? Is my question to you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. There is no rule based on that. May or may not.
Let's see if we will have another nomination. Otherwise, my question is, let me see, if we won't have a nomination for the remaining post here, the normal procedure, I assume, has been to take an, sorry, Ibila, are you waving your hand? Yes, Ibila wanted to take the floor. Okay, Ibila.
Ouais. Oui, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Vice-président. En fait, voilà, vous vous rappelez, avant Albara, je voulais intervenir. Bon, voilà, il est intervenu, j'ai compris. Et merci beaucoup à Albara. C'est vrai, c'était pendant les pauses ou interventions, faire ces consultations, ben, on ne peut pas les faire maintenant, étant virtuel. Mais je voudrais maintenir à la pratique. Aucune règle écrite n'existant. Je constate jusqu'à ce jour, on a pratiqué de façon constante cette règle-là, c'est que celui qui est vice-président devient président par la suite. C'est ça la réalité. Et donc, sur la base de la composition actuelle, je crois que c'est Mohamed de la Tunisie qui est vice-président de l'IFC. Ou bien? Et donc, si c'est ça, moi, je crois que, bon, on parle de IFCC, non? IFC.
Yes, we are discussing the EFC chair from non-Annex 1 parties. That's correct.
Yes, yes. Donc, moi, je propose, ouais, je propose Mohamed à ce poste parce qu'il a été vice-président l'année passée et il a bien travaillé. Et bon, donc, pour moi, pour ne pas rompre avec cette pratique-là, donc c'est normal qu'il puisse vraiment avoir ses promotions et devenir président de IFC, quoi. Voilà, c'est ma proposition concrète. Merci.
Thank you, Ibila. I think that Albara wanted to take the floor again. If that is the case, please. No, you did not want to take the floor, Albara? Okay, I saw you saying no. I see Patience raising her hand, so I will leave the floor to you, Patience.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that the chair has just clarified the situation. You know, I mean, the practice has been someone does is the vice chair, then the following year you move into the chair. That has been the practice, I think. But now, looking at the situation we have now, it means that we have basically like 3 Africans in the position. So I was going to suggest that if once Mohammed moves to the chair of the EFC, Evans also moves to the chair of the AP, then if possible, perhaps I can withdraw my nomination for a colleague from either Eastern Europe or GRULA, if that's okay with members. Otherwise, it means that, you know, we'll have a lot more of Africans in the committees and the board. In the committees. So that would be my suggestion if others will agree. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Patience. I understood that you wanted to put the attention to the fact that if we were to elect Mohammed as EFC chair, we would have 3 nominations from Africa. That would be Evans, yourself, Patience, and Mohammed for 3 of the 4 posts. And your suggestion was that if we would nominate Mohammed, you would be willing to stand down yourself to be able to for someone to nominate someone else for the PPRC vice chair in order to make it more representatives from more regions. So I will, if that's agreeable to the other persons having nominated, then I would expect someone to nominate someone instead for the PPRC vice chair from non-Annex 1 parties, as we had the suggestion of Mohammed becoming the EFC chair for the coming year. I see that I have Yadira who would like to come in. Yadira, please, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, buenas tardes, buenos días a todos los colegas. Había hecho algunas consultas con un representante de Europa del Este, con el señor Aran. Él está de acuerdo en asumir la presidencia también, pero en caso de que ya veo que se había tomado la decisión de continuar a Mohamed, no tengo ningún inconveniente tampoco, pero sí quería trasladar que Aran está en disposición de asumir la presidencia también del Comité de Finanzas.
Sorry, I was muted there. Thank you, Yadira. So I understood that you said that Aram would be prepared to also to be taking the position of EFC chair. So I think, as I see it now, we have a sort of a little puzzle to sort out. And I wonder whether we could do that here, or whether if it were possible to organize in a small room something. I will let Ibila in and then maybe ask Mikko to see if what is possible. How can we organize a little so we can have one nomination maybe for each post. Ibila? Please, Sibila, you have the floor.
OK. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Vice-président. Merci à tous les collègues. Hein. Franchement, c'est très intéressant ce que nous avons en face de nous. En réalité, d'abord, je voudrais remercier sincèrement Patience, vraiment pour avoir attiré notre attention sur cette possibilité de cumul de positions qu'occuperait vraiment l'Afrique. Et franchement, je partage largement son point de vue. Je le remercie pour avoir fait preuve de responsabilité et de ne pas s'attacher vraiment à une position quelconque. Et ça, c'est vraiment louable. Deuxième, honnêtement, je suis également pour un équilibre entre les différentes régions du groupe non annexe 1. C'est juste, je soutiens ça, je soutiendrai volontiers que Aram soit là, ou Madame Yadira, mais je voudrais revenir à cette pratique-là. Vous voyez, je vois le document en face de nous. On a déjà la pratique. Quelqu'un qui est vice-président devient président, et ça, c'est constant. On n'a jamais dérogé à cela pour le moment. C'est pourquoi, bien que vraiment appréciant à juste titre hein, la position faite sur la personne de Aram ou de Mme Diadira, moi, je voudrais pour qu'on ne se complique pas la vie par la suite. Parce que quand il y a une pratique consciente, je crois qu'il vaut mieux la poursuivre. Moi, je soutiendrai toujours que Mohamed soit, parce qu'il a été vice-président, qu'il soit président. Maintenant, vous voyez, c'est une très bonne chose. Si quelqu'un vient pour la première fois, c'est la règle, il devient vice-président. Si on vient, si on voit PPSC, le chef va être du pays annexe 1 et le vice-chef va être de non-annexe 1. Donc, ce vice-chef qu'on va nommer cette année aura le temps de monter pour être chef l'année prochaine. Je crois que ça va être vraiment notre pratique de façon constante. Et je le souhaite vivement parce que de but en blanc, devenir président, ce n'est pas ce que nous avons toujours vu. Vous commencez toujours vice-président et après vous devenez président, ça c'est constant. Et donc par conséquent, pour ne pas beaucoup discourir, je demanderai avec la compréhension, ce n'est pas une position figée. Je voudrais attirer l'attention seulement sur les faits, sur les faits. Maintenant, le poste de PPSC, tenant compte de la position de Patience là, que Aram et Jadid, c'est Yadirat, hein, se concèdent pour prendre ce poste de vice-chef de PPSC. C'est ce que je vois. Et celui qu'on aurait pris là, maintenant, l'année prochaine, aura le temps de devenir président de PPSC. Bon, voilà ce que je voudrais proposer, tout en respectant, franchement, absolument, hein, les propositions de nos collègues. Je n'aime pas de parti pris, mais je voudrais maintenir au fait et à la pratique. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Ibila. As this is really a matter of the constituencies to decide, and it's not for me to propose who will be appointed for different posts coming from non-Annex 1 countries. I really need help here from the non-Annex 1 parties in order to have possibly one nomination for each post. Otherwise, I think we will have to come back somehow on this issue, but I will need to ask in that case Mikko how we would proceed, because this is really a question for the constituencies to decide, and not for the chair or the vice chair to decide who would be put in the place. Do we have anyone else who would like to take the floor? Okay, I think I will give the floor now to Yadira, who made a nomination earlier. Yadira, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor Matías. Les pido disculpas, es que tengo mucha interferencia en el audio, en el video, la conexión es muy lenta aquí. Nosotros no quisimos, yo no quise introducir un ruido en el sistema, sino más bien tratar de agilizar el proceso, ya que no había una representación por parte de los países no anexo 1 para el comité, para la presidencia del Comité de Ética y Finanzas. Pero si en la práctica ha sido que debe pasar primero por la vicepresidencia, no hay ningún inconveniente en con que Mohamed asuma la presidencia del Comité de Ética y Finanzas. Simple y llanamente, en caso de que no existiera una propuesta, yo proponía a Aram, que está en la mejor disposición, no hay ninguna dificultad, era solo para tratar de buscar un equilibrio y darle una respuesta a la problemática que teníamos de la no presencia de una representatividad. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Yadira, for that clarification. It was well noted that you were only trying to make a suggestion, as the post was, so to say, open in the beginning. But we, as I've heard, we had 2 nominations for the same post, as you also noted. But I think Mohamed himself would like to make a comment, so I will give Mohamed the floor here.
Merci, Mathias. Et je remercie les membres du conseil d'administration qui ont soutenu mon élection, ma proposition pour le poste de président du comité de finances. Je comprends également le souci d'assurer un certain équilibre et une certaine représentation de tous les constitutions et les sous-groupes dans les postes de présidence et dans les différents groupes. Pour cela, je voudrais également appuyer et remercier Patience pour ce point qu'elle a relevé. Et tenant compte de cela, j'appuie également la proposition de Alam comme président du comité de finances. Merci.
Thank you, Mohamed. Thank you for that intervention. And the vice chair of the PPRC. However, I'm not sure whether Aram is actually a member of the PPRC. Can someone enlighten me on that? I think Aram is member of the EFC, right? Which might cause a problem in this case. No? Patience, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vice. Yeah, I was just wondering what Mohamed said, because, no, sorry, someone just said, because Aram is not in the PPRC. So I don't know whether that is possible, but I was going to propose Ala from Moldova to be vice chair of the PPRC. Thanks, Vice.
Thank you, Patience, for that nomination. So in that case, as far as I understand, and you may raise your hand if I have misunderstood something, but I think we then have nominations for all the posts, for all the officers on the board. I will read the list and you will be able to see if I understood everything correctly. We have a nomination for the board chair from Annex 1 parties. That is myself, Matthias Broman. We have a nomination for the board vice chair from non-Annex 1 party, which is Albara. We have a nomination for EFC chair from non-Annex 1 parties, that is Mohammed. We have a nomination for EFC vice chair from Annex 1 parties, which is Sylviane. And we have a PPRC chair from Annex 1 party, Susanna. We have the PPRC vice chair from non-Annex 1 party that Patience just nominated Ala. And then we have the accreditation panel member from non-Annex 1 party to serve as chair, Evans. And finally, accreditation panel vice chair from Annex 1 party, Eleonora. Can I maybe ask the secretariat to see if I got everything correctly, or if I have missed something out?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. We have taken good note of this. It seems to be correct based on the nominations that have been made. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikko. In that case, I will only see if there are anyone else raising their hand. And I also would like to inform you that after this agenda point, we will need to have a break for the interpreters. But I don't see anyone raising their hand or writing in the chat. So I assume then that we are ready to take a decision. Now I see Ibila raising his hand. So I will give the floor to you, Ibila.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Vice-président. Je voudrais sincèrement remercier tous les collègues pour l'esprit de responsabilité qu'ils ont fait. Je voudrais remercier particulièrement Madame Patience et Aram, que je respecte beaucoup, un membre vraiment actif et assez contributif de notre conseil. Je le remercie beaucoup parce que on sent un détachement de l'épaule de responsabilité, mais ce qui l'intéresse, c'est la bonne marche du conseil. Je remercie sincèrement d'avoir supporté la candidature de Mohamed. Et là, notre pratique se poursuit. Et je crois que nous tous qui sommes ici, on tirera leçon de cela. Lorsque quelqu'un a été vice-président une fois, il vaut mieux qu'il devienne président par la suite. C'est le bon sens. Je le souhaite vivement. Et donc, pour cela, je remercie sincèrement Aram, merci beaucoup. Et merci à tous les collègues du Conseil qui ont fait abstraction de certains commentaires pour que nous puissions avoir vraiment cette composition qui m'agrée. Je remercie Madame Yadira également, parce que tout le monde a cherché le consensus pour que nous ayons vraiment nos officiers à jour. Et donc, voilà le commentaire que je voulais faire. Notre conseil se porte très bien. Au-delà de cette division pays annexe 1, pays non annexe 1, on s'entend bien pour que vraiment les choses puissent aller vraiment dans le bon sens. Merci beaucoup une fois, chers collègues. Je suis vraiment content de ce conseil-là et de cette décision que nous venons de prendre. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Ibila. And I can just underline what Ibila has just said, that I agree with him. And I'm very happy that we now have nominations for all the officers of the board. And in that way, we will be able to look forward to the next year. And it's very good that we can elect everyone already now, because that means we will be better prepared for the next year. because otherwise we would have to elect at a later stage, of course, and that would leave less time for the people who would take the position to get ready to step in. So I assume that we are now ready to take a decision on the nominations that we have made collectively. And as I don't see anyone coming up in the chat, I will therefore consider this decision closed and this agenda point closed. Thank you to all. Thank you, and I look forward to working with you all next year. It will be a very interesting year, the second pandemic year of the board. Of the board and the fund, and we will come back to this. And I see we have a lot of agenda points left to cover for today, so we mustn't take too much time here. We should go on. But before that, we need a 5 minutes break for the interpreters. So I invite you to take a 5-minute rest and then come back in 5 minutes. So that would be approximately 15:42 my time, Central European time. Thank you.
Chers collègues, je crois que les 5 minutes sont passées. Nous allons reprendre nos travaux. C'est notre dernier jour. Il faut que nous puissions avancer vraiment dans nos échanges et qu'on arrive à la fin sur une très bonne note. Est-ce que je peux commencer? Les interprètes sont prêts? Ah, thank you. Merci beaucoup. Merci. C'est vraiment à vous, vraiment cette pause. Parce que vous avez tout le temps, c'est Michel. Merci beaucoup, Michel. Est-ce que Miko est présent ou pas? Ok, voilà. Ok, Miko, merci beaucoup. Ok, merci beaucoup. D'accord, on va reprendre nos débats. D'abord, avant de continuer, je tiens à dire mes sincères félicitations à tous nos responsables d'organes, à M. Macias. Merci beaucoup, Macias. Félicitations. À Mohamed, Evans. J'aime pas tous les noms ici, mais franchement, je suis content. Félicitations et heureux de pouvoir travailler avec vous sous votre leadership. Je suis certain que c'est le conseil qui va gagner. Infiniment merci, bonne chance. On est là, on vous supporte entièrement. OK. On va continuer maintenant sur notre point de l'ordre du jour. Ce sont les dates et lieux de la du conseil d'administration. Vous le savez, souvent, matériel ne sera pas une décision et chacun de nous est informé. Il y a une proposition du secrétariat. Je vais laisser Miko à nous faire une présentation de ce qui est prévu et après, on pourra enregistrer vos commentaires et questions au besoin. Merci beaucoup, Miko, vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if I caught it correctly. I understand we are still in the agenda item on election of officers, and the topic is about the nomination of the Innovation Task Force members.
Oui, Miko, merci beaucoup. Vous avez raison, you are right. Hein? Merci, il reste de tas de choses. Dans cette condition, Mathias, vous voulez bien prendre le relais parce que votre tâche n'est pas terminée. Donc, vous avez la parole, Mathias.
Thank you, Chair. So we will also, we have a remaining point on the agenda 13, as Mikko rightly pointed out, and that is the election of officers for the Task Force on Innovation. And I would like Mikko to read out the members who have announced that they are willing to be members of this task force. Please, Mikko.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. If I can actually ask my colleague Saliha if she's available to read, because she collected these expressions of availability. Thank you.
Thank you, if I may. Following the email that was circulated to the board inviting members to express their interest in serving on the Innovation Task Force, we have heard from 6 members who have confirmed their interest in serving on the task force. I'm going to read out their names in alphabetical order. Ms. Margarita Caso Chavez from Mexico, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Ms. Eleonora Kogo, Italy, Western Europe, and others. Ms. Patience Dempty from Ghana, Africa. Ms. Claudia Keller from Germany, Western Europe, and others. Mr. Marc-Antoine Martin from France, Annex 1 parties, and Mr. Nilesh Prakash, Fiji, or Small Island developing countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Salia, for reading out those 6 members of the board who have told that they are available to be part of the board. And as far as I understand, 6 is a good number also. So we don't necessarily need to look for any more members from the board. So I suggest that unless there is someone who would like to propose someone now immediately that we decide upon the names that we have heard to be included in the task force on innovation. And as I don't see any hands being raised, I can confirm that we have also decided upon that matter. And I will give the floor back to the chair, Ibila. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Vice Chair. Albara is raising his hand.
Sorry, I didn't see that. Albara, were you raising your hand?
Yes, no problem, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you very much. I just have a question and maybe a comment. So about that task force, would it be open-ended? And I mean, normally those task forces, especially if we don't have like any terms of reference and what have you, so that would be an open-ended task force, and members, of course, can definitely at any point indicate availability to join. So I think 6 is a good number, but I don't think that we do have any terms of reference that really concise us or limit us to a number of people that can be on the task force. So just to make sure that this task force would remain open-ended, members can, of course, come into the task force, can have discussions whenever possible. So just to get that assurance and make it clear to everyone. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Albara, for that comment. Could I have a response maybe from the Secretariat? What is the understanding on this task force of innovation? So,
yes, if I may. The purpose of the task force is actually to help continue with the work that was outlined according to the decision that is now has been already reviewed by the board. And therefore, it makes sense that the task force would be open-ended.
thank you, Celia. So Albara, you had the response there. The task force can be open-ended, so it's possible for others to join, as I understand it, at a later stage if it would be necessary. In that case, I don't see anyone else raising their hands. I'm just checking to see that I don't miss anything. No, so I will then leave the floor to Bila to move on to the next agenda point.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Macias, pour cette bonne prestation. OK, comme je l'introduisais, on va aborder le second point de l'ordre du jour, les dates et lieux de nos prochaines sessions. Comme il est de tradition, lors de la session d'octobre, on définit les dates et le lieu. Nous savons tous le lieu, c'est Bonn. Bon, mais les dates, là, oui, on les retient de façon consensuelle. Pour le faire, je vais laisser la parole à Miko pour nous présenter les propositions de dates. Et après, les membres du conseil peuvent intervenir pour des commentaires ou des questions. Et après, on va prendre une décision là-dessus. Merci beaucoup. Miko, vous avez la parole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And my colleague Sophie has projected here the suggested dates for the meetings in next year. And these would be for the 36th of the meeting of the board on March 22nd to 26th, during that week. And for the 37th meeting of the board on the week of October 11th to 15th. And these are the standard times, if I may say, that the board has usually organized its meetings. We have checked against any international or religious or other holidays, and it seems that these dates don't overlap with such dates. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Miko, pour cette présentation claire et nette. Je soumets ces propositions à l'appréciation du Conseil. Bon, je constate, tout le monde est d'accord avec ces propositions et donc les dates de la 36e session du Conseil d'administration et de la 37e session de ce Conseil-là sont fixées comme suit, 22 au 26 mars. OK, Aram? Ah non, it's Macias. OK. Macias, vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question that came to my head when we were looking at this latest date in October. I just wanted to ask the Secretariat if they have taken into consideration that the COP next year will be in November and not in December, if there are any issues that we need to report on, and if there will be enough time between the board meeting and the COP, so to say. If that's just a question to make sure that we have taken that into consideration, so to say. Thank you.
OK, merci beaucoup, Macias, pour cette remarque. C'est vrai, c'est important. Je vais laisser Miko pour nous apporter un élément de clarification ou un commentaire. Miko, vous avez la parole. Ah, sorry, Miko. Je vois Aram et Patience. Donc, Aram, vous avez la parole, suivi de Patience après.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Oui.
Yeah, okay. So I understand that next two meetings were planned to be 5 days long, which is quite wise. But my question is rather, we still have that flexibility. If the pandemic is not over, we can change the dates or the modality, let's say, whether it's face-to-face or virtual intersession, right? My question is to Secretariat.
OK, merci beaucoup pour cette question. Nous tous, nous souhaitons une réunion présentielle. Espérons que la pandémie va pouvoir partir, va prendre fin. OK, Patience, vous avez la parole.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Actually, my comment was also going to be on the 36th meeting, that I hope by that time, things have improved in terms of the COVID, because I mean, recently we're hearing that in Europe, the cases are increasing. So I'm hoping that by that time in March, would have things have improved. So maybe we should also take that into consideration. Thank you.
OK, merci beaucoup. J'espère que la liste de ceux qui veulent intervenir est close maintenant. OK, je vais demander alors à Miko de pouvoir répondre à la préoccupation de Macias, à savoir les dates de la prochaine COP. Prévu pour novembre et ceci pour octobre. Voilà comment vous pensez. Et bon, les qualifications que aussi, bon, les souhaits, si le COVID-19 va arriver à partir, est-ce qu'il ne faut pas prévoir aussi quelque chose, une réunion présentielle? Voilà. Merci. Miko, vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, if I may. Yes, we did consider the dates of the COP that is going to take place in the beginning of November. And the reporting by the board to the COP, or rather to the CMP and CMA, takes place in two reports. There's the main report that covers the period of time until the end of June. And that would be prepared before this meeting, before the 37th meeting, and would be approved intersessionally by the board, would be hopefully translated into UN languages and presented to the CMP and CMA. This current timing would allow us to for the board to make decisions and approve what is the addendum to the board meeting. The decisions will be included in the addendum, and the addendum does not need to be processed through translation to languages. So we could, at least from our perspective, we would be able to process it to be submitted to the CMP and CMA for consideration for its meeting in early November. Thank you.
OK, merci beaucoup. Je crois que Miko a présenté les explications qu'il faut. Maintenant, puisqu'on dirait que bon, ces dates sont adoptées par le Conseil, bon, ne constatant aucune prise de parole, donc les dates du 22 au 26 mars 2021, du 11 au 15 octobre 2021 sont alors validées respectivement pour la 36e session et la 37e session du Conseil d'administration du Fonds d'adaptation. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde. Maintenant, j'espère qu'on peut aborder le point qui suit, hein, la mise en œuvre du code de bonne conduite. Ce code-là, c'est connu, adopté en 2014, et également zéro tolérance par rapport à nos documents de politique. Cette question, c'est une question essentielle. Je suppose que c'est une réunion qui est close ou pas, Miko? On peut faire le débat entre nous ou c'est ouvert?
Thank you, Chair. Apart from what has been included in the annotated agenda, I don't have anything to add on this topic. Just to note, perhaps that as in our, according to our understanding, there has not been any issues related to the code of conduct that would have been raised by members of the board. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Miko, pour cette précision et vraiment, je dirais déjà à ce point, comme c'est la pratique, je ne sais pas si les membres du conseil d'administration ont des préoccupations à soulever dans ce point de l'ordre du jour. Donc, je vous invite, s'il y en a, qu'on puisse en faire un débat. Apparemment, je dis apparemment, hein, je ne vois pas de bonne prise de parole. Je considère alors tel que ça est, la mise en œuvre de notre code de bonne conduite ne cause pas de problème et tous les membres du conseil d'administration s'y conforment. Merci infiniment et je crois qu'on a gagné du temps comme ça. Cet ordre du jour, oui, c'est bon, on en tient compte et on peut évoluer. L'ordre du jour qui suit, c'est les questions sur lesquelles hier on n'a pas pu obtenir des décisions ou des propositions consensuelles. On va les poursuivre espérant que les propositions qui sont par la suite intervenues peuvent nous permettre d'avancer dans l'examen de ces questions-là. Et comme vous vous rappelez, le point que nous allons faire, c'est les liens possibles entre le fonds d'adaptation et le fonds vert pour le climat. C'est vraiment une question essentielle, mais c'est une réunion qui est une réunion close. Et donc, avant qu'on ne l'aborde, et cette session va être dirigée par Mathias, vous vous rappelez très bien, hier, c'est lui qui avait conduit cette session. Lorsque le secrétariat va nous confirmer que oui, ceux qui doivent prendre momentanément congé de nous l'ont fait, Mathias, notre vice-président, va pouvoir diriger cette session-là. Merci, Miko. Veuillez nous garantir que la session est vraiment close et qu'il n'y a que les membres du conseil d'administration.
Sure. Agenda item, of course, we are at your hands.
Bon, OK. Bon, OK, merci beaucoup. C'est ce qui nous intéresse. Bon, alors, Mathias, vous êtes invité à prendre vraiment la direction des débats. Merci.
Thank you, Chair. So the agenda point that we discussed yesterday is the agenda point 8A, strategic discussion on objectives and further steps of the fund and linkages between the fund and the Green Climate Fund. As you may recall, we had a discussion and there were some suggestions made, and I believe the Secretariat, together with some members of the board, has worked on a new text, which I think will be shared with you here. And I invite Mohammed from the Secretariat to read what's new in the text.
Thank you, Chair. As you said, we have a revised text, which is now displayed on the screen. And I highlighted in red the new addition text. So I will read again the full text for your consideration. Having considered the ongoing efforts to enhance complementarity between the Adaptation Fund and the Green Climate Fund on document AFB B35B/6 and its annexes, the board may want to take note of the report included in document AFB B35B/6 and its Annex 1, which provides an update on the recent cooperation between the Adaptation Fund and the Green Climate Fund. B, this is a new text, to take note that the board of the GCF has not yet considered the legal assessment on the AF as contained in the document GCF/B24/INF08. C, to request the chair and the vice chair to continue their active engagement assisted by the Secretariat in a structured conversation with the GCF board with a view to exploring and taking concrete steps to advance the options for fund-to-fund arrangements described in document GCF B22/09 and its Annex 1. D, to request the Secretariat to continue discussions with the GCF to advance the collaborative activities identified at the annual dialogue in November 2017, the technical workshop in February 2018, and the informal meetings between the chair and the vice chair of the Adaptation Fund board and the co-chairs of the GCF in May and September 2018, and at the margins of the 24th sessions of the Conference of Parties to the UNFCCC, COP24 held in Katowice, Poland, and request the chair and the secretariat to report to the board on. Those are the new additions as well. The progress made in the activities described in subparagraphs D above and its 26th meeting, an update on the matters as referred to in paragraph B and C above once they have been considered by the GCF board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. So the suggestion is to come back to this at the next meeting, and I invite members of the board if there are any comments to this text. Otherwise, we will advance to take a decision on it. I would just like to make maybe a small note beside this text, and that is, of course, everyone is open to talk to board members of the GCF if they want to pursue another channel, so to say, if they want to the board of the GCF to bring up this matter. But this is not something that we need to have in writing in this text. So I don't see anyone raising their hands. At least not in the chat function. So I then consider this text adopted, and that we can move on to the next agenda point, which is the application. It's agenda point number 7. Ibila, would you like to take to chair on this agenda point, please?
Non,
No, like
Massas, vous voudrez bien continuer?
Okay.
Merci, notre session a été très courte. Merci de continuer.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the next agenda point is a new item. We did not cover this yesterday. Application of the environmental and social policy by the implementing entities. There will first be an open introduction on this agenda point, and then the suggestion is that the session will be closed. So let me just check here. I will invite Ms. Young from the Secretariat to provide an overview of the document, to make the open, so to say, presentation.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me well. So for the brevity of the time, let's get started. Next slide, please. Among the 4 categories of the accreditation and reaccreditation standards, Category 3 of institutional capacity and Category 4 of the transparency, self-investigation, and anti-corruption measures are related to ensuring that implementing entity can meet the requirements of the fund's environmental and social policy and gender policy. Next slide, please. As you see in this slide, as per the section 11 of the accreditation and reaccreditation application form, every applicant entity needs to provide top-level management statement communicating the entity's commitment to abide by the Adaptation Fund's environmental and social policy and gender policy as evidence or supporting document to demonstrate its commitment to apply the Adaptation Fund's environmental and social policy and gender policy. Next slide, please. Recently, a few implementing entities that were undergoing reaccreditation process have expressed their reservations or their objections to providing this top-level management statement, which caused their reaccreditation process to be stalled. The Secretariat has held several conference calls with them, and one of such implementing entities has sent a letter to the board on this matter in February this year, which is presented to the board as Addendum 1 document. My apologies, Addendum 2 document. As it appeared that this issue has multidimensional implications beyond the accreditation and reaccreditation process itself, and an independent study was conducted by a legal expert with a view to presenting a comprehensive analysis and possible options for board's consideration. The study is contained in Addendum 1 document and will be presented verbally by the expert in the second part of the presentation. Next slide, please. Given the novelty and complexity of this matter, we thought that probably at this meeting, the board may not be able to select one optimal option out of the suggested options outlined in the study. But at least we hope that with the good understanding on this matter, the board could exclude some options which they deem unfeasible or could narrow down to a couple of options to be further analyzed by the Secretariat intersessionally. Or alternatively, we also thought that the board would consider selecting the options for further analysis intersessionally through a survey. With this caveat, the proposed board decision is suggested in brackets, as you see in the slide. Having considered document AFB/B.35.B/4 and its addenda, the Adaptation Fund Board may want to consider the matter and decide: A, to take note of document and its addenda; B, bracketed to exclude options from further analysis, bracketed; C, bracketed to request the Secretariat to intersessionally conduct a survey among the board with a view to identify most feasible and optimal options to address the matter, bracketed; and D, bracketed to request the Secretariat to conduct an analysis on the options and present it to the board at its 36th meeting for its consideration and decision. This is the end of my presentation, and I understand that the second part of this presentation will be delivered in closed session. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang. And I understand then that we will, the suggestion is that we will move on to a closed session. So I will then invite those people that will have